Hello children, I hope you must be studying at home. Your online classes must be going on. So, your history ma'am is once again here. Dr. Sushma, PGT History from JNV, Gonda. Today I am going to teach you the second chapter of class 12. Already I had uploaded my video in Hindi, but because of your request I am going to upload the video again in English. I hope you will take the benefit of this pandemic time and the chapter will be more clear to you. Okay, the topic is kings, farmers and towns. As you know, the chapter is lengthy, so I have divided the chapter in two parts. Now, in first part, what we are going to study. So, first of all, we are going to study in this chapter the period from 600 BCE. We will cover the period from 600 BCE to 600 CE. This is the period we are going to cover under this, right? So many things, so there are many points we are going to learn in this. Now come to the first point. What we are going to learn in this? What is the importance of this period? Why this period is very important? Now, this period is important because several developments took place. What sort of development took place in this? Now, first of all, developments like introduction of iron. The development was introduction of iron. Okay. Then composition of Rig Veda. Then agriculture system, developed agriculture system. So these were the important features of this period, which period 600 BCE to 600 CE. We are covering such a large period. Now, and then new modes of disposal of dead also. These were the changes. See, main points are Rig Veda was composed during this period. Agricultural settlements also emerged. Then the pastoral population in Deccan, how they developed there and what are the evidences. Then new modes of disposal of dead. Then emergence of early states, empires, kingdoms, and then appearance of new towns almost throughout the subcontinent from 6th century BCE. This is a remarkable period in Indian history. Now, what are the sources to know about this period? The sources are inscriptions. How do we know about this period? Inscriptions. You know what is inscriptions? Inscriptions are engravings on hard surface, maybe on stone or maybe on metal. So, sources are inscriptions. Second source is coin. A lot of, you can say, number of coins are recovered of different material. Gold coins, silver coins, then bronze coins are recovered. So, this is another source. Inscriptions, then coins are also the sources of information. Then third is the visual material, like whatever is recovered from the ruins, from the excavation. Then some texts are also available. When we were studying the first chapter, we don't have any textual material, but for this we have textual material also. So it is a difficult process, it is a complex process to know the sources or to tell the story, to tell the history on the basis of these sources. We will have to collaborate them with other sources. Sources are there, but we cannot depend. We will have to collaborate these sources with the other sources. Coins, textual material, visual material, inscriptions. These are the sources of information of this period. Then, in your book, you can see there is a word Princep or Piyadasi. This Princep or Piyadasi. Who was this Princep? Who was Piyadasi? Piyadasi means the pleasant to behold, means having beautiful face, good looking face. So this word was used in inscription in Brahmi script for Asoka. It is not Ashoka, this is Asoka. So for the king Ashoka, this is used, the word Piyadasi is used. And most of the inscriptions of Asokan period is written in Brahmi, and the credit goes to James Princep because he deciphered Brahmi script in 1848. Brahmi was deciphered by James Princep. Then these inscriptions are about Ashoka. Then the famous ruler known for Buddhist texts, because you know Ashoka adopted Buddhism in his later life. So many Buddhist texts are also available about that period. Many scholars, Indian scholars and European scholars, they tried to reconstruct the history on the basis of Buddhist texts, on the basis of Sanskrit literature, because they are also source of information. When we say textual material, that means we are talking about Sanskrit literature, we are talking about Jain, we are talking about Buddhist literature, we are talking about English records or records written in any language. So many records are available. When we talk about this period, a lot of records are there. Now, earliest states, the 16 and the 16 Mahajanpada. Here you can see the picture of 16 Mahajanpada at that time. First of all, you should know what is Janpad. Jan plus Pad, where the feet of the people reached. Feet of the people reached means the people, there was the population of people. 16 Mahajanpada, you can see Kashi, Koshal, Kuru, Vaj, Vatsi, Panchal, Mal. These were the main Mahajanpadas. Now, 6th century BC, the major turning point was due to these reasons. What were the reasons why this is important period for us? Because of the introduction of iron. When iron was introduced, then great change took place. What sort of change took place? Because now agriculture became convenient, easy. Before introduction of iron, they were using bronze tools. They were not very strong. Now what they were doing, they were using iron in their plow also, and it was digging properly, and the land was becoming more fertile. So it was an invention, especially in the field of agriculture. It was a great invention. Second thing, development of coinage system. Coin system was also developed. New states were developed, and the rise of Buddhism and Jainism, that also took place during this period. Then 16 states, when we talk about 16 states, then you will have to learn the name. Kashi, Kaushal, Kuru, Vajji, Gandhar, Magad. The most important was Magad. When we are talking about these, then the most important Mahajanpad was Magad. Now, when we say Mahajanpad, then what were the features of Mahajanpad? I said Mahajanpad means where the people reached, where they kept their feet. That is Mahajanpad. Then features were, each Mahajanpad has its own capital. They had their own capital, they had their own army, they had their own administrative system. So these are the features of Mahajanpada. And there is a book written in Sanskrit named Dharma Sutra. In Dharma Sutra, which is written in Sanskrit, what is written? The code and conduct for the ruler. It is written that the ruler should be from Kshatriya clan. But sometimes we see non-Kshatriya rulers were also there. Now Magad was the most important, was the first among the 16. We will discuss about Magad because this is very important. And every year the question comes from this portion, why Magad was very important. Magad was the most important Mahajanpad. Okay, Magad was the most important Mahajanpad. Why it was important? Importance reason was, first was because of availability of iron. Iron ores were here, iron mines were here. So iron mines, availability of iron. Iron is important for everything. The tools are made, the arms are made with the iron. Second thing, availability of river. Rivers were not only used for irrigational purpose, for irrigation as well as for transportation. So rivers were also there. So because of availability of rivers also, then availability of elephants, because at that time elephants were used for war. Availability of elephants also. Elephants were there, they were using them in war. Then iron was there for making tools, for making pots and other things. Then they had developed the agriculture system. Because of the introduction of iron, this area was a fertile area, fertile land. Magad was a fertile land. So this is the importance of Magad. And last is the policies of the rulers of Magad. These are the 5 points and you will have to learn them. Policies of rulers. Magad was the first amongst the 16 Mahajanpada because of availability of iron, because of availability of elephants, because of availability of river for transport for irrigation, and because of fertile land, and because of the policies of the rulers. It became first and the foremost. Right. Now when we talk about an early empire, then how do we know what are the sources? The growth of Magad culminated in the emergence of the Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta Maurya was the founder, one marker. Chandragupta Maurya was the founder of Mauryan Empire. Now, what are the sources? How do we know about Mauryan Empire? This also comes for long question. Previously it was of 8 marks, now 8 mark questions are not there, some changes there. So, what are the sources to know about Mauryan Empire? One thing is inscription. Many inscriptions are available. Okay, pillar inscriptions are there, stone inscriptions are there. Inscriptions are there, coins are there, then sculpture are there, then we say one more thing are the text, the Jain literature, Buddhist literature, Sanskrit literature, that is also there. Jatak stories are there, then when we say Sanskrit literature, so many books are there. Then Megasthenes, he had written a book, Indica of Megasthenes gives a lot of information about this period. Then the Arthashastra written by Kautilya. This is very important book because we get a lot of information about this period from Arthashastra by Kautilya. See 4, 5, 1 marker question we have done in this portion. Kautilya, Arthashastra, Megasthenes, Indica, then Sanskrit literature, then coins, art and architecture, sculpture, inscriptions. All this gives a lot of information about Mauryan Empire. Now, Ashoka also introduced the concept of Dhamma. This Dhamma was actually not a new religion. Sometimes we are confused, we say he introduced a new religion. It was not a new religion. It was the collection of moral values. It was a collection of moral teachings and we call it a Dhamma. Now administering the empire, there were 5 main political centers in empire. 5 main centers you can see: Patliputra, Takshila, Ujjaini, Tosili and Suvarnagiri. These were the 5 main political centers in the empire. Megasthenes mentions a committee with 6 sub-committees for coordinating military activities. Means 6 subcommittees were there and they were performing different jobs. Means one committee was looking after the cavalry, another was looking after elephants, another was looking after chariot, another was responsible for naval activities. So the work was divided. 6 committees were there. So the work was divided for the smooth running of administration. Right. The next thing is Dhammamatras were also appointed to propagate Buddhism. You know, Ashoka became follower of Buddhism and he had appointed Dhammamatras. Even he had sent his son and daughter for the propagation of Buddhism in other part of the world. Then the new notions of kingship chiefs and kings in the south. This is once again for 1 marker, this portion is important. So I am telling you what is important for 1 mark, what is important for long answers. Rise of new kingdoms in Tamilkam. When we say Tamilkam means we are talking about Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. And the source to know about this area, what is the source to know? That is Tamil Sangam text. Tamil Sangam literature that is written in Tamil. So Sangam literature is the source to know about Tamilkam area. And what is the important features now? One thing, Kushan, we study about Kushanas. The Kanishk was the main ruler of Kushan dynasty. The gold coins were also, you can see the picture of gold coins also. Kushan coin is there. There is a picture of ruler. So from the 1st century BC to 1st century CE, this used the strategy. The history is written on the basis of inscription and textual traditions. Coins in sculpture, when we talk about coins, then because coins also throw a great deal of light. How coins throw? Because if the coin is made of gold, coin is made of silver or bronze, so that means we are getting the information about the economic condition of that period. Then we are also getting the information about the physical features of the ruler. We are getting about the information of the time period of the ruler also, and sometimes we get information about interest of the ruler also. Then coins, we are just now told you, gives a lot of information. Then huge statues of Kushans have been found. And this huge statue that is from Mat, that is near Mathura, and from Afghanistan, because they were inspired. These Kushan rulers were inspired by Chinese rulers. They were inspired by Chinese rulers, and what they had done, the large statues, the large idols were also built, because they had used the title of Devputra. If you remember in class 11, Genghis Khan had also used the title of Swargaputra. That means he Swargaputra. So they had used the title of this Devputra, right? Devputra means the children of God. Why they were doing all this? Just to get the blessings of God, or just to showing themselves superior than others, right? So gold coins were used and huge statues were also made. Then by the 4th century, there is evidence of larger states including the Gupta Empire. Then the literature, coins, inscriptions, prashastis are the source to know history of Gupta rulers. When we say prashasti, what is prashasti? Prashasti is written in praise. Prashasti means in praise, something written in praise of the ruler. Now you can see the statue of Kushan period. This is headless statue, but this is such a huge statue. And why they were constructing huge statue? Because they wanted to compare themselves with the god. So just to create this image, huge statues were constructed. Now some changes were taking place. A changing countryside, a popular perception of kings. We get a lot of information from Jatak stories and Panchatantra stories. They throw a good deal of light on the relation between the ruler and the subject. Now in Jatak also, through the animals, they have tried to show what was the relation between the ruler and his subject. Same thing in Gandh Tindu Jatak. There is an example given in your book, Gandh Tindu Jatak. There is a story. What the story is there? The ruler thought, I am such a good ruler and people are having very good opinion about me. So one day he just changed himself and he changed his get-up and he wanted to know about the views of the people about him. So when he asked one old lady, she said the ruler is very oppressive. He is not at all good. He is not bothered with the problem of the people. Then the ruler was shocked. That means he was not getting the actual information. That means the spy system, the espionage department was not working properly. So this is how Jatak stories were giving information about this period. Now, what strategies were adopted for increasing the production? If you want to increase the production, two things are needed. For increasing production, two important things are there. One is water, right? So water was available. What they had done, they had used agriculture production increased. Agriculture increased. Now, what were the reasons? How it increased? First of all, rivers were there, means water was available, canals were constructed. They had constructed canals for irrigation. Okay. Second thing is, because of the introduction of iron, what they had started using? Iron-tipped plough. Iron-tipped plough, that was also very important. When it was iron-tipped, then it was easy to dig the earth and the earth became more fertile. Iron-tipped plough. So these two strategies were adopted. One was iron-tipped plough shares, then the irrigation through wells and canals and tanks. Now there was difference in rural society. There were different categories also. 3 categories were there. One was landless agricultural laborers. Second was small peasants, and third was large landholders. It means rich people, middle class people and lower class people. Then there is a term Gahpati. Gahpati was used for small peasants and large landholders. So Gahpati was large landholders also, and we get a lot of information through inscriptions also. Then some votive inscriptions are also there. Votive means some donations were given. The votive inscriptions give information about the donations given by the people, especially by the rulers. And generally, these such type of activities were engraved on stones or metal, because ruler wanted others to know about his achievements and to know about the good work he had done. Now land grants were also given. Now what was the purpose to give land grants at that time? Land grants were given. The purpose to give land grant was they wanted to extend agricultural land. Generally, what sort of land was given in grant? I am donating you land. So I am not giving you fertile land. I am just giving you the land that is not very fertile, not very rich. So I am extending the agricultural land. Second thing, those who were receiving the donation, those who were getting the land as grant, they were supporting the rulers. They were becoming loyal for the ruler. So this is the second thing. Then third thing is, these land grants, they were getting their support. So 3 you can see, to extend agriculture to new areas. Now they were extending to new areas. They were getting the support of these people, and they brought more land under the cultivation. Okay, then next, so this much we have discussed in this. Now you go through the questions, you can take a screenshot, and if you have any doubt what we have discussed, just in 30 seconds I am going to revise you. We have talked about the changes that took place from 600 BCE to 600 CE. Then second thing, we have already discussed. You can just have a screenshot of the question. Thank you so much, and watch the next part of the same chapter.